Want to talk now about the growing concern about the security of the country's top secrets after the revelation that yet another one-time member of the executive branch was storing classified documents at their private home. Former Vice President Mike Pence joined Joe Biden and Donald Trump yesterday as the latest high-level official to become embroiled in controversy over their handling of classified information. In two letters obtained by NBC News, Pence's lawyer Greg Jacob informed the National Archives that earlier this month, quote, a small number of documents bearing classified markings were found at the former vice president's home in Indiana. Jacob says the search was triggered by Pence himself, who asked an outside counsel to review his possessions in response to the discovery of classified documents at the home of President Biden. After finding the documents on January 16th, Pence's team immediately secured them in a locked safe.
Why?
According to
Jacob. This sounds like the sort of things you're supposed to do.
Before alerting the National Archives 2 days later, the next day, last Thursday, the archives informed the Justice Department about the discovery, and Pence's lawyers arranged for FBI agents to come retrieve the files that same night. Out of an abundance of caution, Jacob says he then offered to also give the archives the boxes the documents were found in. Those boxes were then driven from Indiana to Washington, D.C. by Pence's team over the weekend.
All right, so
and
we get
delivered
it. So we get it.
Well, this is important.
No, he did all the right things. He did all the right things.
But he did, I think, what happened in the White House
Biden,
or with anybody else
so
right
it's time
now
to play
in a position
We're going
of
to play
power.
a game. It's everybody's favorite game on Morning Joe.
What do you think? What is different?
We've been doing it for now. How long have we been on? 47 years, celebrating our 47th, 48th
Something
year
like
now,
that.
George Santos. So let's play Which Does Not Belong. Eddie Glaude, you're our reigning champion on Which Does Not Belong.
Oh, yeah, he's a Princeton professor. He's going to win.
Mike Pence, Which Does Not Belong. Mike Pence, Joe Biden, or Donald Trump. As it pertains to classified documents, which one of these are different? Which one does not belong?
Well, I think, Joe, that's a hard question, but it seems to me that Trump doesn't belong in that category.
That's why he's a reigning champion.
There we go.
Now, you know, Eddie,
That was a tough one.
That was a tough one. But the thing is, Eddie, you know, Pence actually only shines a brighter light on Trump. Biden actually only shines a brighter light on Trump's illegalities. People are going, oh, they can't press charges against Trump. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Because what Mike Pence did and what Joe Biden did is what law-abiding citizens would do. They find classified documents. They immediately contact the authorities. They immediately secure them, and they immediately get them to the DOJ. Donald Trump, on the other hand, takes them, hides them,
and then says, no,
lies,
you can't have them.
Says they can't have them. They're in long-term negotiations. His lawyers lie to the DOJ, saying that they've given everything back. And then when the DOJ calls, the FBI calls, he sends staff. We got it on camera. And they start moving documents out of the space where they were hidden. I mean, so
it's happened before.
Talk about this, Eddie, how it actually... All of this, while embarrassing for Pence and Biden, actually makes it even more clear on how Donald Trump willfully and illegally held on to documents.
I think it's very clear, Joe, that there is no question in the case of President Biden and in the case of former Vice President Pence that there is an issue of obstruction. There's no effort in any way to keep, the National Archives or the FBI from accessing these documents. In fact, they initiated it in some ways, right? And plus, there's this other question. Now, I'm an ardent watcher of Way Too Early. And Peter Baker today said very clearly, we don't know the nature of the classified documents from President Biden and former Vice President Pence. It could have been a schedule. Could have been alike, but we do have some indication of what some of those documents were with President Trump, former President Trump. And let me just say this, there's never a question, at least for me, Joe and Mika, there's not a question of what President Biden would do with those documents or what Vice President Pence would do with those documents, but I was very concerned about what Donald Trump might have done or might do with those classified documents he had in his hands.
Yes, exactly. And Jonathan Weir, I see your lights on. So, yes, we'll really quickly, before we go to you on this end, Ken Delaney, and also your Which Does Not Belong question is this. Are you ready?
Oh.
The Yankees, the Dodgers,
No, I like the other game.
the Red Sox.
Well, since you're talking about teams that are actively trying to win the World Series, the Red Sox don't belong because we're not going to probably be anywhere near the playoffs. But in terms of this, and Eddie, we appreciate your viewership. Yes, I think that in terms of the documents, let's just put it this way. There were some cheers in the White House yesterday. Yes, these three matters should all be dealt differently legally on the facts. But there's the politics at play here, too. And when the documents were found at Biden's home, after they, of course, were discovered in Mar-a-Lago, there was a sense of a murkiness in terms of the politics. But now that they've been found at Vice President Pence's home as well, it's easier to explain, like, look, this thing's happened. We still take classified materials seriously. We acknowledge they were mistakes in packing up these documents. But happened to us in 2017. It happened to Vice President Pence in 2021. And as just laid out here so clearly, the difference there, the outlier is Trump, who held on to the documents, who fought releasing the documents, fought returning them, and potentially even obstructed justice. So the chances of Donald Trump being charged for this crime only going up because the contrast is so much sharper between how he handled this and everyone else. And yes, there are broader conversations to be had about how these materials are handled. Maybe there's overclassification. Certainly it should be done differently. But in terms of the politics, this discovery, embarrassing for Pence and Biden, but legally perilous for Trump.
Yeah.
So what I want to know, and I think what is a valid question in this, is what is the process when somebody leaves a position in the White House to go through their documents and make sure they're leaving what they're supposed to leave? Because I bet you there's a step missing there, especially for people who are in a rush. Though I mean, I'm not making excuses for Mike Pence, for Joe Biden especially, or anybody, but I just wonder what the process is, because this appears to be happening now in a way that we're probably going to find of more people.
I don't mean to be.
And some of these documents are, they turn out to be public information, but they're still marked classified. But they still shouldn't leave the White House.
Which means they're classified. I don't mean to be a simple country lawyer, but the process is go through all your papers and make sure you don't take classified documents home.
That's great if you have one file box.
No,
but these people have hundreds.
And they have hundreds of staffers. Have the staffers go through it. Don't take classified documents home. I served on the Armed Services Committee for years. I never said, hey, I think I'm going to take home
I'm going to go through your storage unit.
This file and put it in my storage unit and let it sit there for a decade. You just don't do it.
I'm going to go through it.